The space station floated in the darkness between three different solar systems. It was called Horizon's Edge, and it was the biggest structure humans had ever helped build. Millions of beings from 12 different species lived there, worked there, and made deals there. It was a place where the galaxy came together. Kang Tai-ho stood at the observation window on Deck 47. He was 29 years old with tired eyes and messy black hair that he never bothered to fix. His diplomatic uniform was slightly wrinkled. He had arrived on the station only 3 weeks ago, and he still could not believe he was here. Earth had joined the Galactic Assembly just 5 years ago. Humans were the newest species, the youngest civilization, the ones everyone else looked at with either curiosity or doubt. Tai-ho had worked hard to become a diplomat. He had studied alien languages, alien customs, and alien history. He had passed every test. And now he was here, at the edge of known space, waiting for his first real assignment. His communicator beeped. A message from his supervisor appeared on the small screen. New delegation arriving today. Species, Velaran. Your task, observe and report. Do not engage. Do not make contact. This is very important. Do not touch them. Tai-ho read the message twice. He had heard of the Velorans. Everyone had. They were one of the oldest species in the Assembly, but they kept to themselves. They rarely left their home planet. When they did, other species avoided them. He walked to the station's main arrival hall. It was a massive room with high ceilings and walls made of transparent metal. Through the walls, you could see ships coming and going, their lights blinking against the black emptiness of space. Other diplomats and station workers had gathered near the entrance, but they all stood far back. They whispered to each other with worried faces. Tai-ho noticed that even the station's security officers looked nervous. He found a spot near a support pillar and waited. An old diplomat from the Corvan species walked up to him. The Corvans looked like tall birds with 4 arms and gray feathers. This one had the markings of a senior official. "You are the human," the Corvan said. His voice was sharp and clicking. "Yes," Tai-ho replied. "Kang Tai-ho, junior diplomat." "You are new here." "I am." The Corvan made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Then you do not know about the Velorans. Let me give you advice. Young human, stay away from their women. Far away." Tai-ho frowned. "Why?" "Because they will destroy you." The Corvan leaned closer. His yellow eyes were serious. "The Velaran women have a gift, or a curse. When they touch you, they enter your mind. They see everything, every memory, every fear, every secret thing you have hidden from yourself, every dark thought you have ever had." Tai-ho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "What happens then?" "Then you break." The Corvan stood straight again. "I have seen it happen. Strong warriors, brilliant scientists, wise leaders, they touch a Velaran woman, and afterward, they are never the same. Some go mad. Some cannot speak anymore. Some simply stop living, even though their bodies still move." "Has anyone ever survived it?" "Survived, yes. Remained whole. No." The Corvan shook his head slowly. "The Veloran women do not choose this power. They are born with it. They cannot turn it off. This is why they are alone. Always alone. No one can touch them. No one can love them. They live their whole lives in isolation." Before Tai-ho could ask more questions, the arrival doors opened. The Veloran delegation walked in. There were 12 of them. They wore simple robes of dark blue cloth. Their skin was pale, almost silver, and it seemed to glow softly in the station's light. They walked in 2 lines, 6 on each side, with perfect coordination. But Tai-ho barely noticed the others. His eyes found her immediately. She walked at the front of the group, a woman with silver-white hair that fell past her shoulders. Her skin had a faint shimmer to it, like starlight reflected on water. Her eyes were the color of ice, pale blue with hints of silver, and they looked straight ahead without expression. She was beautiful. But more than that, she looked sad. There was something in the way she held herself, in the way she did not look at anyone, that spoke of deep and old loneliness. Taiho heard her name whispered by someone nearby, Park Sora, the lead liaison of the Valoran delegation. As the Valorans walked through the hall, everyone moved back. Diplomats who had argued about trade deals and territory for years pressed themselves against the walls. Security officers gripped their weapons. A child from one of the merchant families started crying and was quickly carried away. No one wanted to be near them. No one wanted to risk an accidental touch. Sora's eyes moved across the crowd. For just a moment, they met Taiho's. He did not look away. She seemed surprised. Her steps slowed for just a heartbeat. Then she looked forward again and kept walking. The delegation passed through the hall and disappeared into the corridor that led to their assigned quarters. The crowd let out a collective breath. People began talking again, but their voices were still low and nervous. "You see now," the Corvin said to Taiho. "Even looking at them is dangerous. Their eyes can see things too. Not like their touch, but still. They notice things that others miss." Taiho did not answer. He was still thinking about that brief moment when Sora had looked at him. In that single second, he had seen something behind her cold expression, something that looked like surprise, and maybe, just maybe, something that looked like hope. Over the next few days, Taiho did his job. He observed the Valoran delegation from a distance. He wrote reports about their movements, their meetings, their behavior. He followed his instructions exactly, but he also started learning about them. He spent hours in the station's information center, reading everything he could find about Valoran history and culture. He learned that their planet was cold and beautiful, covered in ice and crystal mountains. He learned that their society was divided between those with the mind-touch gift and those without it. The women were born with it. The men were not. He learned that the Valoran women were respected but also feared by their own people. They served as judges, as healers, as keepers of truth. But they could never have families. They could never have friends. Even a handshake could shatter an unprepared mind. The more Taiho learned, the more he felt something strange growing in his chest. It was not pity. Pity was too simple. It was something else. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. He knew what it was like to be alone in a crowd. He knew what it was like to have something inside you that others feared or did not understand. Growing up in Busan, he had been the quiet child who saw too much and said too little. He had felt other people's pain like it was his own. It had taken him years to learn how to live with that sensitivity without being crushed by it. Maybe that was why he could not stop thinking about Sora. Maybe that was why, when he saw her walking alone through the station's corridors, he did not turn and walk the other way like everyone else. He watched her. And he waited. He did not know what he was waiting for. But something told him that a moment would come, and he would be ready for it. 3 weeks had passed since the Valoran delegation arrived. Taiho had filled dozens of reports with his observations. He had watched diplomatic meetings from the back of the room. He had taken notes on trade discussions and cultural exchanges. He had done everything his supervisors asked. But he had also done something else. He had started learning the Valoran language. It was not an easy language. The words were soft and flowing, like wind moving through ice caves. Some sounds were impossible for most species to make, but Taiho practiced every night in his small quarters. He listened to recordings. He repeated phrases until his throat hurt. He was not perfect, but he was getting better. He did not know why he was doing this. His job did not require it. His supervisors had not asked for it. But something pushed him to understand these people, to see them as more than the monsters that everyone else believed they were. One evening, after a long day of meetings that he did not understand, Taiho walked to the station's botanical garden. It was his favorite place on Horizon's edge. A large dome filled with plants from dozens of worlds. The air was warm and wet and smelled of growing things. He had planted earth roses there during his first week. Real roses from a seed packet his grandmother had given him before he left home. They were small and red, and they reminded him of everything he missed. When he entered the garden, he stopped. Sora was there. She stood alone in front of his roses. Her silver hair caught the artificial sunlight. Her pale hands were clasped in front of her. She was looking at the flowers with an expression he had never seen on her face before: curiosity, wonder, and something that looked like hunger. Taiho's heart beat faster. Every warning he had received echoed in his mind. Do not engage. Do not make contact. Stay away. He took a step forward. Sora heard him. She turned, and her eyes went wide. Her body became stiff. She stepped back from the flowers. Leave, she said. Her voice was cold, but there was something underneath it. Something shaking. You should not be here. Taiho did not leave. He stood where he was, keeping a safe distance between them. I come here often, he said. I planted those roses. Sora looked at him. Her ice-colored eyes studied his face. You are the human. The one who watches us. Yes. Watching is your job. Yes. Then watch from somewhere else. She looked back at the roses. I want to be alone. Taiho should have listened. He should have turned around and walked away. That was what any smart person would do. That was what everyone else had done for hundreds of years when dealing with Veloran women. Instead, he sat down on a stone bench near the path. Not close to her, but not far either. Just present. I am not going to touch you, he said simply. I am just going to sit here. Sora stared at him. Why? Because you look lonely. No one had ever said that to her before. Taiho could see it in the way her expression changed. Her cold mask cracked just for a moment. Underneath it was surprise and pain. And something that looked like it had been locked away for a very long time. You humans are strange, she said finally. Every other species runs from us. They fear our touch. They fear what we might see in their minds. But you sit down. I am not every other species. No, you are worse. She turned to face him fully. Humans are fragile. Your minds are weak. I have read the reports. Veloran contact has destroyed humans faster than any other species. Your people shatter like glass. Maybe some do, Taiho said. Maybe I would too. But I am not trying to touch you. I am just talking. Talking is dangerous too. Then stop me. She did not stop him. Taiho took that as permission. He started talking. Not about politics or trade or any of the official things he was supposed to care about. He talked about himself, about his home. He told her about Busan, about the way the ocean looked in the early morning when the sun was just starting to rise and the water turned gold and pink. He told her about his grandmother's small house near the beach, where he had grown up eating seaweed soup and rice cakes. He told her about the smell of rain in summer, about the sound of waves at night, about the feeling of sand between his toes. He told her about his family, his father who worked on fishing boats, his mother who taught elementary school, his younger sister who wanted to be a singer. He told her about the day he left Earth, how his grandmother had pressed the rose seeds into his hand and told him to plant something beautiful wherever he ended up. He talked for almost an hour. Sora did not speak. She did not move. But she listened. When he finally stopped, the garden was quiet. The artificial lights had dimmed to simulate evening. Why are you telling me these things? Sora asked. Her voice was different now, softer, like she had forgotten to keep it cold. Because you asked why I sat down, Taiho said. I sat down because you looked like someone who needed to hear something real, something that was not about fear or duty or what everyone expects. Sora was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her words came slowly. like she was testing each one before letting it out. "I have not spoken to someone like this in 17 years, she said. "Not since I finished my training and took my position. Velaran liaisons do not have conversations. We have negotiations. We have interrogations. We have official exchanges. But not conversations." "That sounds lonely." "It is what it is." She looked at the roses again. "These flowers, they are beautiful. On my world, nothing grows like this. Everything is ice and stone. I have seen images of growing things, but never with my own eyes. Not until I came here." Taiho stood up slowly. He walked to the roses and, without touching her, picked one. He placed it on the edge of a nearby planter, where she could reach it without coming close to him. "Then take one," he said. "A gift. From one lonely person to another." Sora looked at the rose. She did not pick it up, but something in her face changed. It was small, just a slight softening around her eyes. But Taiho saw it. "You should be careful, human," she said. "If others see you talking to me, they will think you are foolish, or dangerous, or both. Let them think what they want. And if I were to touch you by accident, if our hands were to meet, then we would find out what happens." Taiho smiled slightly. "But I do not think you would hurt me on purpose. And I do not think you want to be alone as much as you pretend." Sora did not answer. She picked up the rose, careful not to touch the spot where his fingers had been. She held it close and looked at it for a long moment. "I will be here tomorrow," she said quietly. "Same time. If you want to tell me more about your world, I will be here." She walked away without looking back, but she took the rose with her. Taiho watched her go. His heart was still beating fast, but not from fear, from something else, something that felt dangerous and wonderful at the same time. He had been warned. Everyone had warned him. The Valoran women were not to be approached. Their touch was destruction. But Taiho had seen something tonight that no one else had seen. He had seen a woman who had been alone for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to be treated like a person instead of a weapon. He would come back tomorrow, and the day after, for as long as she would let him, because some things were worth the risk. 2 months had passed. The meetings in the botanical garden had become a routine. Every evening, when the artificial lights dimmed and most beings on the station returned to their quarters, Taiho and Sora met among the flowers and the trees. They talked about everything. Taiho told her about human history, about the wars and the peace, about the art and the music, about the way humans had almost destroyed their own planet and then spent generations trying to save it. He told her about movies and books and songs. He told her about love and heartbreak and hope. Sora told him about her world, about the crystal caves where she had trained for years to control her gift, about the rituals and the traditions, about the weight of being able to see into anyone's soul with a single touch. She told him about the people she had broken without meaning to, the minds that had shattered when she searched for truth. She told him about her loneliness, how even on her own world she lived apart, how her own family could not touch her, how she had not felt another person's hand in her own since she was a child, before her gift awakened. Taiho listened to it all. He did not flinch. He did not run. And slowly, something changed between them. It was not love. Not yet. It was something more careful than that. Trust, understanding, recognition. 2 lonely souls finding each other across the vastness of space. But the station noticed. It was impossible to keep their meeting secret forever. Other beings saw them together. Diplomats talked. Rumors spread. By the end of the 2nd month, everyone on Horizon's Edge knew that the human was spending time with the Valoran woman. The reactions were not kind. "You are playing a dangerous game," said Han Ji-soo, Taiho's human supervisor. She was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and hard eyes. She had served on the station for 15 years and had seen many young diplomats make mistakes. The Valorans are not friends. They are barely allies. And their women are off limits for a reason. They sat in her office. The walls were covered with awards and certificates. Everything was neat and ordered. "I am not doing anything wrong," Taiho said. "We just talk. Talking leads to other things, and other things lead to disaster." Jisoo leaned forward. "Do you know what happened to the last person who got close to a Valoran woman? A warrior from the Corvin military, one of their best. He thought he was strong enough. He thought he could handle the mind touch. They found him 3 days later, sitting in his quarters, staring at the wall. He had not moved. He had not eaten. He had not spoken. His mind was gone. I am not trying to touch her. Not yet, but you will. That is what always happens." Jisoo shook her head. "I am ordering you to stop these meetings. For your own safety." Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised even himself. "No." Jisoo's eyes went wide. "Excuse me?" "I said no." Taiho stood up. "With respect, you cannot order me to stop talking to someone. It is not against any regulation. And Sora has done nothing wrong. She has not threatened me. She has not hurt me. She has only talked to me. You are risking your career, your future, your mind." "Maybe. But that is my choice to make." He walked out of the office before she could respond. That night, he told Sora about the meeting. They sat on opposite sides of a small pond in the garden. Fish from a distant ocean world swam in circles below the surface. "Your supervisor is right," Sora said. Her voice was heavy. "You should stop meeting me." "I have brought you nothing but trouble. You have brought me more than you know. I could destroy you, Taiho. One touch, one moment of weakness, and everything you are would be gone." She looked at her own hands. "I have done it before, not on purpose, never on purpose, but still, the result is the same. Then we will be careful." "Why?" She looked at him with eyes full of pain. "Why do you keep coming back? Every other species in the galaxy runs from us. Even our own men keep their distance. But you keep returning, night after night. Why?" Taiho thought about the question. He had asked it to himself many times. The answer had taken weeks to understand. "Because I am human," he said finally. "And humans are different." "Different how?" "We grew up looking into ourselves." Taiho spoke slowly, finding the right words. "Every other species in the assembly evolved to survive by hiding. Hiding emotions, hiding fears, hiding the dark parts of themselves. But humans did the opposite. We created art to express our pain. We wrote stories about our monsters. We invented therapy to face our demons. We spent thousands of years learning how to look at our own darkness and not be destroyed by it." Sora listened without speaking. "Your gift shows people who they really are," Taiho continued. "And most beings cannot handle that. They have spent their whole lives pretending, hiding. When you show them the truth, their minds break because they have never practiced facing it. And you have? Every human has." Taiho smiled sadly. "We call it growing up. We call it heartbreak. We call it loss. We cry at funerals. We scream when we are angry. We tell our secrets to friends and therapists and strangers on the night train. We are messy and emotional and completely uncontrolled by galactic standards. But that mess, that chaos, it teaches us something. It teaches us how to look at ourselves without looking away." Sora was silent for a long time. The fish continued their circles in the pond. "You truly believe this?" she asked finally. "That your people could survive the mind touch?" "I believe I could." Taiho met her eyes. "Not because I am brave, not because I am strong, but because I have already seen my own darkness. I have sat with it. I have cried over it. I have learned to live with it. Whatever you might show me, I have probably already shown myself. You do not know what I would show you. No, but I know what I would show you. He paused. I would show you a boy who was too sensitive for the world, who felt everyone's pain like it was his own, who learned to build walls just to survive. I would show you a man who is still afraid of failure, of loneliness, of not being enough. I would show you all my doubts and fears and regrets. That does not frighten you? It used to. Now it is just who I am. He smiled. Humans are not afraid of being seen, Sora. We have been seeing ourselves for a very long time. She did not answer, but something in her expression changed. The walls she had built around herself, the cold mask she wore for the rest of the galaxy, seemed to soften. Just a little. Just enough. You are the strangest being I have ever met, she said quietly. I will take that as a compliment. It is. She looked at him, and for the first time, there was something warm in her frozen eyes. It truly is. They sat together in the garden until the lights dimmed to full night mode. They did not touch. They did not need to. Some connections went deeper than skin. The alarm started at 3 in the morning, station time, a sound so loud and terrible that it pulled Tai-Ho from deep sleep and threw him onto his feet before he was fully awake. Red lights flashed in his quarters. A voice spoke through every speaker on the station. Emergency! Emergency! Reactor failure in Section 7. All personnel evacuate to designated safe zones. This is not a drill. Emergency! Emergency! Tai-Ho pulled on his clothes and ran. The corridors were chaos. People from a dozen different species pushed and shoved and screamed. Children cried. Adults yelled orders that no one followed. The air already smelled wrong, hot and metallic, like something was burning deep inside the station's core. Tai-Ho pushed through the crowd toward the emergency command center. His diplomatic credentials got him through doors that others could not pass. He needed to find out what was happening. He needed to know if Sora was safe. The command center was a large room filled with screens and controls. Station officials from every species worked at different stations, their faces lit by warning lights. At the center stood the station commander, a tall being from a species Tai-Ho did not recognize. He had 4 eyes and gray skin, and he looked more frightened than anyone Tai-Ho had ever seen. What is happening? Tai-Ho asked one of the human technicians. Reactor breach, she said without looking up from her screen. Section 7's main power core is going critical. If we cannot shut it down, it will explode. The whole station will be destroyed. Can we evacuate? There are 2 million people on this station. We have maybe 40 minutes. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were red from crying. There is no time. We cannot save everyone. Tai-Ho felt the cold spread through his body. 2 million lives, families, children, friends, all of them would die unless something was done. What do we need? He asked. To fix it? Coordination. The commander's voice cut through the noise. He had heard Tai-Ho's question. The repair teams are in place. We have people ready at 12 different points throughout the station. If they all act at exactly the same time, they can shut down the reactor, but the timing must be perfect. A difference of even 1 second could cause a chain reaction. Use the communication system. It is not fast enough. The signals take time to travel. By the time one team receives an order, the others have already moved. We need instant communication, mind to mind. No delay. Tai-Ho understood. He looked around the room and saw them standing in the corner. The Valoran delegation. 6 of them, including Sora. They stood apart from everyone else, as always. But their eyes were fixed on the commander. We can do it, Sora said. Her voice was calm and steady. The Valoran mind link can connect all 12 teams instantly. We can coordinate them perfectly." "Then do it," the commander said. "We need an anchor." Everyone in the room went quiet. "Explain," the commander demanded. Sora stepped forward. "The mind link requires a central point, one mind that connects to all the Valoran women, who then connect to the repair teams. But that central mind must be incredibly stable. It will experience everything at once, every thought, every fear, every emotion from hundreds of people flooding through it simultaneously. Your people cannot do this? Our men do not have the gift, and a Valoran woman serving as anchor would create a feedback loop. The connection would collapse." Sora looked around the room at the gathered species. "We need someone from outside, someone whose mind can hold everything without breaking." No one moved. Taiho watched as species after species looked away. The Corvins, the merchants, the scientists. Everyone who had ever warned him about the Valoran touch now stood frozen, unwilling to volunteer. Millions of lives hung in the balance, and no one would step forward. Taiho raised his hand. "I will do it." Every eye in the room turned to him. Sora's face went pale. "No," she said immediately. "Taiho, you do not understand what this will do to you. It is not just one mind touch, it is dozens, all at once. Even if you survived, you might not be yourself anymore." "Is there another option?" She did not answer. That was answer enough. Taiho walked toward her. The crowd parted around him. He could hear whispers. "Humans are fragile. Humans break easily. This one is going to die." He stopped in front of Sora. They had never stood this close before. He could see the silver patterns in her iris. He could see the fear she was trying to hide. "Taiho," she said softly, "please. I have seen what the mind touch does to humans. Your species feels everything so strongly. The connection will be overwhelming." "Maybe." He smiled at her. It was a real smile, without fear. "Or maybe that is exactly why I can do this." "What do you mean?" "You said it yourself. Humans feel everything strongly. We always have. But we have learned to hold it, to carry it, to feel the weight of the whole world and still keep moving." He held out his hand. "I trust you, Sora, and I am not afraid of myself. Whatever you show me, whatever I feel, I have been preparing for this my whole life." She stared at his hand. Her own hands trembled at her sides. "If I lose you," she whispered, "if your mind breaks because of me, then at least we saved 2 million people." He kept his hand extended. "Take it, please. We are running out of time." The station shook. A deep rumble that everyone felt in their bones. The reactor was getting worse. Sora took his hand. The moment their skin touched, Taiho's world exploded. He had thought he was ready. He was wrong. Every fear he had ever felt hit him at once. Every memory, every moment of pain and joy and love and loss. His grandmother's funeral, his first heartbreak, the day he left Earth, the loneliness of space, the weight of feeling too much in a world that felt too little. But that was just the beginning. Through Sora, he felt the other Valoran women connect. And through them, he felt the repair teams. Hundreds of minds, all pouring into his consciousness at once. He felt their terror. He felt their doubt. He felt a father thinking about his children, a scientist thinking about unfinished work, a young engineer who had never faced death before. It was too much. It was so much more than one mind should hold. Taiho felt himself starting to crack. The edges of his consciousness began to splinter. He was going to break. He was going to shatter like all the others before him. But then he felt something else. Sora. Her presence in his mind was different from the others. She was not just connected to him. She was with him, holding him, anchoring him as he anchored everyone else. And she showed him something. A memory. Her memory. A little girl on a frozen world, crying because no one would hold her hand. A teenager trained in cold rooms by teachers who never smiled. A woman who had spent decades believing she was a monster, destined to destroy anyone who came close. Until a strange human sat down in a garden and refused to leave. The memory gave Tai-ho strength. It reminded him why he was doing this. Not for glory, not for duty, but for connection. For the chance to show the galaxy that walls could be broken, that isolation was not inevitable, that even the most feared could be loved. He steadied himself. He gathered the fragments of his mind and held them together through sheer will, through stubbornness, through the most human quality of all, the refusal to give up. Now, he thought, or said, or screamed. He was not sure anymore. The repair teams moved as one, 12 stations, 12 actions, all perfectly synchronized. The rumbling stopped. The red lights turned green. The alarm fell silent. The station was saved. Tai-ho collapsed. Tai-ho woke in a white room. Medical machines beeped softly around him. His body felt heavy, like he had run 1,000 miles. His head ached. But he was alive, and he was still himself. He knew this because he could remember everything. His grandmother, Busan, the roses, Sora, the overwhelming flood of minds that had nearly torn him apart. He remembered all of it, and he was still here. The door opened. Sora walked in. She looked different. The cold mask she always wore was gone. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. She stopped a few feet from his bed and just looked at him. "You survived," she said. Her voice shook slightly. "I did." "You should not have. No one has ever survived a connection that strong. The doctors said your brain should have shut down. They said your mind should have collapsed under the weight." She stepped closer. "But you held on. How?" Tai-ho thought about the question. The answer came slowly, rising from somewhere deep. "Because I was not holding on alone," he said. "You were there with me. I felt you, your strength, your hope. You did not just connect me to the others. You stayed with me through all of it." Sora was quiet for a moment. Then she sat down in the chair beside his bed. "When I touched your mind," she said softly, "I expected to find darkness, fear, hidden things you had buried deep. That is what I always find. That is what breaks people. They see their own truth and they cannot bear it." "What did you find instead?" "Everything." She looked at him with wonder. "All of it. Right there on the surface. Your fears, your pain, your doubts, but also your hope, your love, your memory of rain on water and your grandmother's hands and the way the sea sounds at night. It was all there, Tai-ho. Nothing hidden, nothing buried. Just you." "That is how humans are," Tai-ho said. "We do not hide from ourselves. We cannot afford to. We feel too much to pretend." It was beautiful. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I have touched thousands of minds in my life, warriors, rulers, scholars. All of them had walls, all of them had darkness they refused to face. But you had made peace with your darkness. You carried it like an old friend." She reached out her hand. Slowly, carefully. She placed it over his. No flood of memories this time, no overwhelming connection. Just warmth, just touch, just two people who had finally found each other. "I felt something else," Sora said. "When we were connected, I felt what you feel for me." Tai-ho did not look away. And I feel the same." They stayed like that for a long time. Two beings from different worlds, finally allowed to touch. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. News of what had happened spread across the galaxy. A human had survived a Valoran connection. Not just survived, but thrived. He had anchored a mind link that saved 2 million lives. Scientists and diplomats from every species demanded to know how. The Galactic Assembly called a special session. Taiho was asked to speak. He stood before representatives from 12 different species. The chamber was massive, filled with beings of every shape and color. They all watched him with curious eyes. "You want to know how I survived?" Taiho said. His voice echoed through the hall. "The answer is simple. I am human." The crowd murmured. Taiho continued. "For thousands of years, my species has been learning how to face ourselves. We invented stories to explore our darkness. We created art to express our pain. We built entire systems of healing around the simple act of talking about our feelings. Other species evolved to hide from their inner selves. Humans evolved to confront ours." He looked around the chamber. The Valoran gift is powerful. It shows people who they really are. And for most species, that is terrifying. You have spent your lives building walls, burying secrets, pretending to be something you are not. When a Valoran woman shows you the truth, those walls collapse, and without them, you have nothing to stand on. He paused. But humans build differently. We do not have walls. We have bridges. We share our pain. We tell our stories. We learn that our darkness is not something to fear, but something to understand. When a Valoran showed me my truth, I recognized it, because I had already looked at it 1,000 times before. The chamber was silent. "The Valoran women are not monsters," Taiho said. "They are mirrors, and mirrors are only dangerous to those who are afraid of their own reflection." That speech changed everything. Over the following months, humans began to volunteer for Valoran connections. Carefully, slowly, with proper preparation and support. Most survived, some struggled. A few found it difficult, but none were destroyed. The isolation that had defined the Valoran people for 1,000 years began to crack. For the first time, they had allies, friends, people who could touch them without fear. Other species watched with amazement. Humans, the youngest members of the Galactic Assembly, were doing something no one else had managed. They were building bridges to the unbridgeable. 6 months after the crisis, Taiho and Sora stood together at the observation window where they had first seen each other. Earth was visible in the distance, a small blue dot against the darkness. "My people are talking about you," Sora said. "They say you have given us something we never thought we would have." "What is that?" "Hope." She leaned against him. After months of practice, touch came easily to them now. "For generations, we believed we would always be alone, that our gift was a curse that could never be lifted. But you showed us a different possibility, a universe where we do not have to be isolated." "Humans are stubborn," Taiho said. "We see walls, and we want to break them. We see distance, and we want to cross it. It is how we are built." "It is beautiful. Sometimes it is just foolish." "Perhaps." She smiled. It was still rare to see her smile, but it was becoming less rare every day. "But it is a kind of foolishness the galaxy needs." They stood together, watching the stars. "What happens now?" Taiho asked. "Now? We keep going. You teach others what you taught me. That connection is not something to fear. That being seen is not the same as being destroyed. That love is possible, even for those who believe they could never be loved. That is a big job. Humans like big jobs." She took his hand. "And you will not be alone. You will never be alone again." Taiho looked at her. At this woman who had spent her whole life believing she was a monster. At this brilliant, brave, lonely soul who had finally found someone willing to stay. "Your people are strange," she had said once, long ago in the garden. "You carry so much pain, yet you reach out anyway." He understood now why he had answered the way he did, why the words had come so easily. "That is the only way we know how to live," he had told her. "Together." It was true then. It was true now. And as they stood at the window, watching Earth rise over the edge of the station, Tai-ho knew it would be true forever. Some things were worth the risk. Some connections were worth any price. And some humans, stubborn and emotional and completely unafraid of being seen, were capable of changing the galaxy. Not with weapons, not with technology, not with power. Just with the simple willingness to reach out and take someone's hand.